let's talk about what's normal and not normal to feel living without a thyroid, post-thyroidectomy. And first of all, there's nothing normal about losing a vital organ. There's nothing normal about losing the thyroid. But unfortunately, this is a new normal that you've just got to learn, right? You've got to understand. Took me 7 years to come to terms with my new normal. I really struggled with wrapping my head with everything I ended up learning at the beginning of my journey and the frustrations with everything. And so I want to share this because there's so many people that are suffering unnecessarily post-thyroidectomy, and it just ticks me off. It's not okay to be suffering post-thyroidectomy, and there's a lot of things that people are going through that they think is just a normal part of being in their body or as getting older, when truly it's about mismanaged care. It's about being treated as someone who has a thyroid when you don't have a thyroid. It's not realizing that the right tests aren't being done, the right meds aren't being done, the right optimization. I have people suffering for years until they come in to see me, and then they can see a significant change within 30 to 60 days because they are equipped with a new knowledge of like, oh, this is what I should have asked for. This is what I should have pushed for. Or this is the type of doctor I should be seeing to get my medication prescribed. This is what it should look like to have an informed relationship, an informed decision-making relationship with my prescriber. And that's just really important. But I want to clarify, I want to put a straight line, okay, yeah, this is what it can look like post-thyroidectomy, but this is not okay. It shouldn't be like this, right? So let's start off what it can look like post-thyroidectomy. So if you guys are not following already, I am a DC. I'm a functional practitioner. I love what I am. I love what I do. A DC changed my life after I had my thyroid removed. It was him teaching me that my body was created to heal itself, that I needed to look at the body as a whole. That changed my life post-thyroidectomy. I was very hopeless. I felt overwhelmed. I had all these symptoms and I wasn't really getting answers, and I was being written off that all my low thyroid hormone symptoms were essentially all in my head. I was eating too much, even though I was very restrictive and working out. And it was when I saw this doctor where I was really able to learn oh, wow, I have to be in charge of my health. And that's when I started almost 20 years ago, really looking at the research, looking at interviews, just really diving in because I needed to save myself from a broken system, a medical system that wasn't helping me. And so I have 20 years of experience in that way. And then over a decade of working with people all over the world, just helping them in their situation, how to walk into any doctor's office and know what to ask for and know how to have an informed conversation, an educated conversation about how to get what they need. So let's talk about what is the new normal, right? Post-thyroidectomy. One thing I can see is that you should be able to get to a place where you feel better and you feel well and you feel stable. It is absolutely possible. And it should be. This should be that way for everyone. You should feel like you have your energy returning. You should feel good in your body. But I will say this, it's not as easy. And I've talked with people post-thyroidectomy about this, like men and women. I have a very clean lifestyle, keto, fasting, cycling, paleo, all of that. And yet it's a harder, I can get better, but it takes more work to get there because there's always this extra thing here. It's this vital organ that adapts and it responds, it interacts with our brain constantly, it interacts with our entire body. And now we've taken away that constant adaptability, that communication, and now we're on the stagnant pill. And so what I've found is that, yes, it's going to take more work. You're going to have a healthy foundation that you stick to. Am I perfect all the time? No. I'm not. But my foundation always has to be healthy, nourishing, anti-inflammatory. Like, I have to stick to a healing lifestyle. Honestly, everyone should in this day and age, but I have to stick to that. And when I kind of go off on it, I have a harder time recovering. And I see that with people, like, they do the keto, they do the fasting, and it takes their body a bit more to get there, but it is possible. Like, you can feel well, and I've seen that. I've helped people get there. Another thing that I think is really important to understand, that's part of a new normal, is the understanding that you're going to have ebbs and flow of seasons where you're feeling really great, and then seasons where you feel like you're regressing in a way, where it's like, oh, like a flare up. I've had clients like call it like a flare up, where I'm just like, what? And it might be because you're in a stressful season, a lot of traveling, sicknesses or whatever, and it just really, it's like draining you in a way, and it feels like you're just kind of going backwards. And when I say going backwards, like when you feel like when you start to be educated and empowered about what it should look like to be well, when you start healing your body as a whole, because remember, I always teach healing after thyroidectomy. Just cutting out the thyroid doesn't end there. You have to heal, and you have to go deeper. Some of you guys have co-infections or co-underlying issues, dysregulations, like gut issues, or sex hormone imbalances, or toxicity. There's different things that you might have to address. But when you start to feel well in that balance, you can feel that things are off. Like, a lot of my clients can feel like they're, it's like the clarity's not there. They are feeling more sluggish, and then they have to kind of reevaluate, and usually they have to go look at their meds. And that's another one, is the fact, I've made many videos on this before, is that there's also what I've seen as a new normal, is that the thyroid meds, you can get on the right meds for you and the right dosing, and it works for you until it doesn't. And then you have to change. And unless you know that, you don't know that, right? I say that in the sense of, like, you start feeling bad, and then you're like, oh, you think it's all of these things, because we can get into living in a way where we don't realize, like, we forget. You might forget the big deal of losing that thyroid. Like, everyone around you acts like it's, no big deal. And your doctor may even act like it's no big deal, but it is a really big deal. And we can live our life without realizing, like, oh my gosh, I've lost this vital organ. So for a lot of you guys, you're in a place where it's no longer working, but you're not aware of that. You don't have the guidance for that. Like, no one sat down with you and said, oh my gosh, get your labs done, get these labs done, look at all of these markers. Oh yeah, you're not optimal. It's time to change something. It's time to talk to your doctor about a medication change or a dosage change. It's time to optimize things for you. And I just interviewed someone, and I'm really excited to get this podcast episode up. And it's someone who is an amazing, like, health influencer, but we talked about, she's living without a thyroid, and we talked about, because we're so aware and we're so in tune and we're huge advocates for ourselves, how often she's had to change her thyroid meds to feel better, and she's had to change it like 2 to 3 years. I've had to do 4 to 5 years, like, and I could probably change it more. And every time I do change it, I feel like a clarity when it's time for that to happen. My metabolism changes, clarity of mind. I've had clients that have been on the same amount, and I'm like, oh, hey, talk to your doctor about X, Y, and Z. And the doctor's like, yeah, let's do it. They switch, and it's like, oh my gosh, something amazing. And understanding that that can happen, that you can feel good until you no longer feel good, and then it's time to change. And all of that is part of that new normal, and that's why it's so important. I think why so many people love to work with me that have lost their thyroid or follow me is because I know what a lot of the research are saying. I know what doctors are saying. I know all of that, but I also am living it. I am fully living what it feels like to feel off. I'm fully living with the work of, like, optimizing thyroid meds. Like, I'm fully doing that. And then I'm coming on here and making sure that you guys don't feel alone in that. And so that's really important to understand that there is going to be those ebbs and flow, that you're going to have to change those thyroid meds, that things aren't going to be as easy, but you can feel well and be well. Really important to understand that. And if you guys are in a state where you need some help, some extra help, just check out the links. I've got some links here in the show notes to help you guys out, for those of you guys that are looking to heal after thyroidectomy. Now, what's not normal? What is not normal? Now, I feel like sometimes I'm like, okay, I feel like I don't want it to sound like all of your issues, like every video I make, everything, every, podcast episode I make is saying it's your thyroid hormones, it's your thyroid hormones, like, because that's not always the case. Like, there could be more. I'm working with a one-on-one client long-term who, yeah, it was her thyroid meds, her liver was a mess and all of this, but we just got really down to this core, and she has mold toxicity. Like, so yeah, there are other things that are there, but when you lose a vital organ and you're fully dependent, like, you don't make it, right? You don't make the hormones, right, that your body needs for survival and healing and everything. When you have lost that always has to be the first place you look. I am so tired of doing consults with men and women that are like, I'm fasting, I'm doing all of this, and they become more and more restrictive, and they're pushing their bodies harder, and they feel like their body is like working against them, and I'm like, your thyroid hormones, like, yeah, your neighbor that did keto is losing 30 pounds and you only lost 5, but your T3 is like a 2.1 and the bottom end of the range is a 2. Like, yeah, you're beating yourself up mentally and physically for something that's a really big stressor on your body. And so if you are living without a thyroid, you always start with your thyroid hormones. And this is one note I want to make. Medical ranges, functional ranges, and then what's optimal for you. Guys, medical ranges are way too broad, and they're way too broad for people with a thyroid. Within the functional medicine world, the functional, world, we know that functional ranges for thyroid hormones are very different than medical ranges. You can be within a medical range. That's the thing that drives me crazy, is people will be right at the end and their doctor's like, all right, you're good to go. And they have all the symptoms of things being wrong. Or people will come to see me and they're like, well, my labs look normal. And I'm like, normal? You're like below the mid end of the range, and you have all the signs and symptoms of not being well. So there's really broad medical ranges. Then there's more narrow functional ranges so that you can kind of come in closer to that. And then there's what's optimal for you within that functional range, because you might be good at 3.5, you might be good at a 4.4. And I think that tweaking, that okay, maybe I'm at a 3.5, but maybe my body needs a 3.9. That tweaking for optimization I am not seeing that being done within the medical system. At all. I'm not saying no doctors do this, but it's like once you get within the range, you're like, okay, you're good to go. But what if a little bit more is better for you? And that's being missed. And so feeling like if you are doing all the right things, like, hey, you are eating a healthy, nutritious diet. Like I talk about like a more paleo way of eating, like eating the way God created you to eat. Avoiding inflammatory seed oils, inflammatory ingredients, like, getting outside, moving, getting sunlight. Like, if you're working on these foundational things and you're seeing this resistance, I don't even care if you're in menopause or perimenopause, because there's a lot of women that are suffering because of that. If you don't have a thyroid, the first place you're looking is your thyroid hormones. If you're seeing that resistance, like, what do people feel like when they're suffering because they are not being managed well? Brain fog, it's like you're underwater, like you can't control, like you want to feel better, you want to react better, you want to respond better, but you're not, and it just feels like you can't recover mentally well. Menstrual cycle issues, either not ovulating, so long cycles, irregular cycles, no cycles, menopause, hot flashes, fatigue for men, just feeling more depressed, anxiety, and remember, depression and anxiety can look very different, like just feeling more down or feeling more anxious, not being able to get over things really easily. Weight loss resistance, like you're not able to lose weight, or being able to lose weight is just a slow, very slow process. Digestive issues, having bouts of constipation, having bouts of some diarrhea, skin issues, just feeling off in your body, like feeling like a disconnect with your body is such a big thing. None of that is normal. That is not a new normal that you should be okay with. And if you don't know what your optimal ranges are, if you don't have full, complete wellness labs, which I have a link for my ebook for that, if you have not tried all the possible thyroid med options for you, and you have all these symptoms, and that's a red flag that, hey, like there's an issue here that you need to go deeper in. Let me know if you guys have any questions or comments on this. I hope you guys find this helpful. Please subscribe as I create more information like this to help equip you on how to really thrive post-thyroidectomy.